Well, hey, we have the pleasure of having Nick and Denise Woodruff with us this morning, and we get to hear about their story. I've been learning things just like in the few moments that we've been like thinking about, hey, the topics that we're going to touch on. So I love this. I get a chance to like have coffee with people and kind of hear their story, and that's why we're doing this, is to be able to share like life stories, and there's connect points along the way, and so we get to enjoy that together. You guys have been at Sandals Church now banning for how long?
It was June of 21.
Yeah.
So almost 2 years.
That's awesome. And so you guys live in Cherry Valley.
Yeah.
And one of the first connect points actually happened. You were in a women's group that was watching Matt's teachings and going through the Enneagram.
Yes.
And so as a result of that, then YPAC happened when we combined with the East Valley campus during COVID, and then we were outside, and that was close enough to you guys, and you guys actually attended there, which is kind of fascinating for us because we were, we helped like set all that stuff up.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the transition for you guys getting connected here at the campus.
And we actually attended East Valley for a brief period of time, and this was like when it was every other row, and we had cleaners like wiping everything down in between services. And so that was like our first experience of actually attending Sandals was through East Valley. And then Denise was just like, let's try Banning. And we had gone to some local churches here in Banning in years past. And I was like, I just don't want to be in Banning. No other reason than just kind of having a little, I don't want to be in Banning kind of attitude.
I get it. That was me too.
Yeah. And so the first day she's like, let's go. And I'm like, okay, I like gave in. And we walked in, and we knew someone right there in the parking lot that we've known for a long time.
Yeah.
We weren't super close with her, but we knew who she was. She was our son's teacher for 2 different years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so we literally came in, enjoyed service, and then the next day we started in their community group. And we've been hooked since that day. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
It's pretty wild.
It's shocking to me that it's been less than 2 years.
I know.
Because of just how plugged in you guys are and how it's just, it blows my mind.
And you guys are both heavily involved and lead Financial Peace University here at our campus. And you currently have a group that's going through FPU.
Yes. So we're co-leading with the Camborians right now. But yeah, we meet on Thursdays, and we have a great group of ladies. It's all women right now. So it's just neat to see like every session is just so different, just the different situations. And it's interesting though, because it seems like with each group, like they have their own similarities. So, this what happens to be all women.
It's because guys don't want accountability.
Yeah, the accountability is kind of rough when it hits a pocketbook.
Yeah. They're just like all the men are like, nah, you can go do it.
Yeah. They don't want to go in and put the work in. They just want to get the result after. Like, oh, you go figure out our budget and just tell me what to do or not to do kind of thing. But yeah.
Tracy and I have gone through Financial Peace multiple times, and then we kind of did a coaching thing for a while. We are big proponents of it. Like we did the whole sinking, funds and all that, preparing for like weddings and roof repair and future tires on the cars, and putting every dollar. This is the thing I always think about. Every dollar is assigned.
Yeah.
So tell us about like how did you guys get connected with Financial Peace?
Oh, wow. So actually years ago in our marriage, there was opportunities for us to take the course, but we were so bad at budgeting because we didn't have a budget. We couldn't afford the $100 to even take the course. And that opportunity happened, I think, 2 times throughout our marriage. And then I don't know, how did you come about? Like you just kind of basically told me we were going to take FPU here through Sandals, and the Camborians were going to be our leads.
Nice.
And so we just kind of said, let's do it,
Yeah.
And there was a lot of couples in our group, and it kind of dwindled down because that's typical with FPU.
It's hard.
A lot of people really involved, and then when they get challenged with like, hey, this is your budget, this is your life, and your bad decisions got you there, a lot of people just kind of step away. But we were so gung-ho with it, and it literally just transformed our marriage even more, because that's always number one reason for cause of divorce is finances.
Yeah.
And for us, we just never were on any good page when it came to finances. Always paid the bills, but we really didn't know what we were doing month to month. So it literally transformed it. And it's been almost 2 years. This coming fall will be 2 years. We've been doing FPU. We're leading our third class since we've taken it. That's just awesome. Because we want to share it with as many people as possible, because it really transformed our mindset when it came to finances, as well as just it strengthened our marriage. So it was definitely a blessing for us.
It can definitely change your life, literally. Like even Tracy and I at this stage, like our girls have moved out of the house, and we are in a position, we're not, wealthy by any stretch, but principles like this have helped us to be in a position to be able to actually be even more generous as opportunities come up, just because we're not, scrimping every penny on every decision, because we've, tried to set aside money for a variety of different things. And like even the sinking fund, like that money's set aside for the future, and it could be 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
But now it's not a stress point.
Right.
Yeah.
It's usually like if something like, the car, we have 2 cars in the shop right now.
Oh, wow.
And like 2 cars in the shop could be a very expensive bill that was unexpected.
Yeah.
But when you have a sinking fund for stuff like that, it's like, we already set money aside for that.
Exactly.
Well, same thing too. Like Jana, like I'm working here on Sundays, but she went to the class during Sundays, and we would do everything at home and do touch base and everything. But we're in a good spot right now because we just had to get tires on both of our cars. With the weather, it's been pretty crazy. And then we took our cars in, and she found out like there's like another $2,000 worth of stuff that needs to happen on the car it's actually really important.
Yeah.
And even on my truck, and because we had that set up, it wasn't like a hit. Like it didn't feel like, oh man, this is messing us up and affecting even like the stability of our home with all our kids and everything else.
And you don't have to put it on credit, so it's like you're not. Oh gosh.
We have literally no credit, and it's because of stuff like that. So Jana's like adamant, like we're not doing this. We got to do this, and I'm like, I agree, because we watched the videos together and everything, and I understand like the importance of that stuff, and experienced it. So we know. Yeah.
Well, it's awesome. We're glad you guys are leading the charge here with the Camborians, which is a big part of, the opportunities that people have here at our campus to learn and to grow. And
we
develop.
Recorded an episode with the Camborians too. So if you guys, when we say Camborians, if you want to know them.
Yep. Sean and Kim,
Camborian, they're on an episode not too long ago.
So I want to hear you guys' story a little bit. So I want you to go back, not only just how you guys met, but before that, like individually, kind of family of origin stuff. Like, what was your family like? Were you guys raised in Christian homes? Those kinds of things. So, and how you came to know the Lord.
For me, I was not raised in a Christian home. We kind of grew up Catholic-ish, but then we stopped going to church like around the time when I was probably about 10 years old, and always believed in God and that sort of thing, but just weren't involved in church. And my parents were married. They got separated when I was 18, but while I was growing up, they were together. My dad was a functioning alcoholic, highly functioning. So, that was confusing to grow up with. I think that if someone's an alcoholic and their life's a mess, then clearly, okay, this is wrong. You don't want to do that. But when you have a highly functioning alcoholic as a father, it's like, oh, okay, you can still party and you can still have a good life.
Kind of normalizes it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I did too. So I found friends who were, the party scene and did that, and, but still had my part-time job and went to school. And, then when I became a young adult, it was just like, by the time I was 21, I'd already been partying for like almost 10 years at that point. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of done with this, and then there came a point where it was just the Lord, really, because there wasn't anybody in my life who was a Christian. I just thought, there's got to be more to this, so eventually, the Lord was just putting people in my life who were Christians just kind of out of the blue. And I got saved at Harvest when I was 23.
Great glory. Have you seen Jesus Revolution?
I did.
Yeah, great
yes.
Great movie.
Yes. I want to see it again, actually.
Yeah, it
it's
was
so
great.
good.
I choked up a couple points on that.
Oh, yeah. I was like crying at the end. Good tears, not like, it's a good story. But so I've just been walking with the Lord ever since.
Did your parents eventually get divorced, or was it just separation?
No, they are still separated to this day.
Wow. Okay, still married, technically, but living separate.
Yes.
Okay.
For 30 years.
Wow. Wow. So no remarriages, and just okay.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Pretty wild.
They still live in the same area?
Yes. So they live in Highland. My mom lives in the same house that I grew up in.
Wow.
And my dad lives probably about 5 blocks up the street.
Oh my gosh. Do they have a relationship?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very volatile. Sometimes they're at my house for the holidays, and sometimes only one of them's at my house for the holidays.
Wow.
So,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, Nick, what's your kind of family of origin?
Oh,
What's your deal?
Yeah,
what
what's
is
my
your deal?
deal? I'm just some dude. I just showed up. They found me under a rock. My mom and my dad, they divorced when I was 2 years old.
Wow.
So that was just before I even knew life began. They were already divorced.
So you didn't really know life as a intact family.
No. And then my earliest memories was my mom with her second husband, which is my sister's dad. And so to me, he was my dad.
Okay.
And, so my mom and him, they, probably late elementary, they separated and divorced.
Wow.
So I moved in with my real dad, who lived in Northern California while we lived here in Highland. And that's where my journey just kind of, okay, it's divorce. I'm used to it. I kind of know that. And then I was homesick. I was a mama's boy, so I wanted to come back home with my mom.
What part of Northern California?
He lived in, at that point, I believe it was Lincoln, California. Okay. So roughly 40 miles east of Sacramento.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to move back home. So I moved back home while my brother, my full brother, stayed living with my dad. So I was the only child at that point, living with my mom.
Wow.
I had a stepsister or a half sister who lived with her dad, and then my brother lived with his dad. So we were all separated at one point. And then eventually my brother moved back in with us, and we were kind of reunited. My sister came back. So we all 3 of us lived together again as siblings. So it was kind of neat. But my mom dated this guy for a lot of years and actually married him a year after, I think it was a year and a half after we got married, Denise and I. Wow. And so I just was a product of divorce and just kind of, it was normal to me.
Christian home?
Nothing.
Okay.
No, when I'd visit my dad, I had a couple stepbrothers up there with my dad, because he remarried. My actual father remarried, and he's still currently married to my stepmom for 30 some odd years now. So pretty neat. I get to at least experience that part. Mm-hmm. So be up there with my stepbrother and my full brother, and when we'd go visit in the summer, my dad for a couple weeks, we would go to a local Christian church and just be there for all the fun activities, but never knew anything about what it was about. We were just there for winning the fun stuff.
So then where did that come about when you heard the gospel and you responded?
So my response wasn't until I met Denise, actually. But prior to that, I had attended church with an ex-girlfriend who their family were CEOs, Christmas and Easter only.
Yeah.
So that's what they did.
Yeah.
And then the grandmother actually had a stroke and had surgery, and then we were every week attending. But I really wasn't gaining any information. Like, I didn't really understand why we were going. I was just going, oh, there's a God, and he loved her enough to keep her alive. And that was it. And so it wasn't until I met Denise that we started attending a church she was attending. And that's kind of where my journey started.
Okay, so how did you guys meet? How did that happen?
So we both lived at this apartment complex in Highland. Him and I grew up in Highland, and we had roommates and whatnot. And so I had the Sparklets delivery water. Like, people don't really do water delivery anymore, but back then it was kind of a big thing.
Yeah.
And I I saw him and I said, "Oh, hey, can you help me with my water and put it on the dispenser?"
Now, was that part of the ploy? Like, hey, can you help me with
That
the
was
water?
the whole plan right there.
You've got big
She's like,
muscles.
"Yeah,
I
I
like
just wanted my
muscles.
water."
Come in my house
Just
with
wanted her water.
Yeah.
That's it.
I thought he was cute, but it wasn't. It was just, I don't know. I wasn't really thinking of like, this would mean anything really,
Yeah.
And then that's just how we met and hit it off. And we had other friends who lived there at the complex, mutual friends. So that's really kind of how we got together after
Wow.
that. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so you led him to church.
Yep.
And that's how you finally responded to the gospel. And,
Yeah.
and you got saved. You had been saved.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had been saved for 5 years at that point. And I mean, he wasn't a believer. It was going against what I believed at that point to be dating or, being involved with someone who didn't believe what I believed. But, I just went with it and, thank God it worked out. But yeah, that's how that happened.
So you guys have been married how many years now?
21, it'll be 22 in
Dang.
July.
Yeah.
Dang,
That's
dang.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So, and you have two kids,
Yes.
Jaden and Darian.
Yep.
And Jaden's dating a Darian,
Yes.
Yeah.
but spelled differently, right?
Yes, the other Darian.
Yeah,
So-
he was always the other Darian. We've known him since middle school,
Wow.
and so we always called him the other Darian.
That's funny. And so now, what are the ages? Jaden is how old?
Jaden's 21 and Darian's 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys are getting close to like the season of empty nesting, right?
Yeah.
Because that's Tracy and I are in this season now. It just happened.
Yeah.
It's not that far off.
Yeah.
So tell us, like 21 years of marriage, raising two kids, like some pointers that you've learned along the way about like how did you get through that? How did you do it successfully? You guys are still together, so that's a positive, right? That says
Yeah.
you did something right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole cliche of divorce isn't, something you bring into a marriage. We don't discuss it. I was adamant on that because my whole growing up was divorce.
Yeah.
Uncle's divorced, aunt divorced. Like that was just what I saw. And I didn't want that. And I don't quit. I'm not a quitter. So I go for the long run. And so when we met and we started dating, like I was just so head over heels in love with her, that I was willing to just kind of do whatever at the point just to keep things like going in the right direction. But yeah, there were like we say this out of experience, like where she shared, she was dating a non-believer. We do not recommend that
Right.
because of the difficulties that it brings. We
Right.
know, we've experienced it. We dated for 3.5 months and got married. So we don't recommend that either because it's difficult. It can work out. We're the exception. We're not the rule. We
It's
always
rare.
tell people.
Yeah.
So it's important to, there's a reason why you hear people tell you like, hey, you need to date for a while. You need to be engaged for a while. You need to refrain from certain things because if not, you're going to battle and it's going to carry through your marriage. And I think just raising two kids and like just working and that kind of distracted and kept us focused on, hey, we're here as a team to raise our kids and pay our bills and move forward. So then a byproduct of that was we need each other. So we always made it work. Mm-hmm. And then you get to a point where financially, you don't need each other financially. You don't need each other for the support. Like our kids are older, they go to school, but we were in love. And so it's like you build that relationship where it's, when it gets to a point where we don't need each other like we did at the beginning, we want to be with each other. Like we enjoy our lives. Like I enjoy her company. Like when she's coming home from work, I'm excited. Like I still have that fire for her.
Dang, boy.
and-
Keep talking.
Dang. Come on.
Getting warm up in here. Hey.
But it's one of those things that it just over years, it just, you have to agree to disagree sometimes. You have to argue. You have to battle things out. You have to just compromise. Like it's not about me, and it's about me giving her my 100% and expecting zero in return. And if you have that
Preach.
mentality, it can definitely give you a successful marriage because her responsibility is to give me her 100% with nothing in return. And so when you have that type of mindset, it really just, it grows the relationship that much more, because
it's a huge concept of not expecting something in return.
Yeah.
Reciprocity. Like, I scratch your back, so eventually I'm going to expect you to scratch my back. And if I get frustrated because I scratched your back and it's taken a few months and I'm starting to get bitter at you, it does indicate why you did the scratching of the back to start with.
Yep.
Because you were really expecting a return on investment, right? You were like, okay, I'm going to do this, and so I'm going to get this in return. It might take a little bit of time, but once it exceeds that expectation and you start getting frustrated or bitter, then you realize, okay, I did that for a return.
Yeah. Well, and that was the mentality for me early on in the marriage. It probably within the first, I would say 10 years was, I'm doing for you, you need to do for me.
Right.
But that's what I saw in my parents' marriage. That's what I saw in my family's marriages. It was like, you're doing for me, I'm going to do for you. And it was always like that. And so it wasn't until, being married 10, 12 years before you realize that's not working. All it's doing is making me bitter and angry.
Yeah.
Because she's not giving me what I want.
Yeah.
And so then you start to change your mind and say, I'm just going to bless her however I feel like God's calling me to bless her. And she's going to respond. I know she will, but I'm not going to expect it. And so it really kind of just worked itself out, but it took a lot of years to get there.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, give me a pointer on raising teenagers.
Don't raise teenagers. Oh, no.
Actually,
Give me some pointers, because I'm just starting that.
You're
And
getting there, huh?
it's been a challenge. It's not easy.
Tough season.
No.
And I'm assuming both Darian and Jaden are completely different personalities,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So the way that
Absolutely.
you approach one is different than the way you approach the other.
Yeah. It was harder when they were young adults than when they were teenagers, which that's probably not common.
Yeah.
I mean, because we have a daughter, and she's kind of highly emotional. When she was in high school, things would happen and she would get really upset, and we just try to stay calm, and just be like a grounding source and not get caught up in the emotions with her. Lead her back to the word, lead her back to truth, and, and pray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of praying that goes on in the home with kids,
Yes.
especially teenagers and young adults.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally can see that, because I've witnessed Nick. One of my favorite things about Nick is that he is he's very calm and collected and knows how to kind of like, it's very pastoral in nature, and how he knows how to like soften situations up and bring people down. Like, I'm an emotional person. And so for me, one of the things that drew me to Nick was like, when he started serving on youth, he would see like, all right, like, this isn't happening. This isn't working properly, blah, blah, blah. And I normally wouldn't like get too frazzled, but when I would, he would be the first one to be like, what do you need?
Yeah.
I got you. This isn't as big a deal as you think it is, but that's okay, because I can see why you think that, and like affirm me, but then bring me down.
Yeah.
And it's just like such a gift, and I can see how that you guys do that as parents, because I'm 37 years old and I'm like, yes, give me more of that, please. And like I have multiple mentors in my life, Pastor Brian being one of them, but there was a point in time when Pastor Matt had a sermon talking about you need other people in your life that aren't necessarily right there in your immediate circle sometimes, like, or at least who you're used to being around, to give you wisdom. And so Nick's actually one of those people for me. I felt God put it on my heart, and after not knowing him for even that long, and Jeremy Madrill is another one. Yeah. And so outside of Pastor Brian, I have these two guys, and they're just so good at just like bringing me down and like getting me to like come to the floor. Otherwise, I'll just float away, dude. I feel like that's what happens. And so I'm blessed by you, and I can see why that worked for you as parents, and it helps to just not like get caught up in everything.
Yeah.
And kind of create like a mellow atmosphere, and like, listen, like, think about these things. This is what's happening. This is what you're probably making it to be, things like that. And then bring it back to the word, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah. blessing, man.
A
Yeah,
lot
for
of
sure.
those are parenting, like the same, like pastoral gifting and like what you do as a parent, you know, as you're speaking into the life of your kids is very similar.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of what John was just explaining, that wasn't always me. I was
Yeah.
a lot more where he was, where I was emotionally driven, and it comes with a good partner that kind of calls you out on your stuff, and that's what happened over the years.
She may be small, but she's got some fight.
I was gonna say,
telling you.
I'm looking at Pastor Brian. I'm like, because he calls me out.
That's why we recommend you date someone for a long time.
Yeah.
Because you get to know them, because there's strengths she has that made me who I am today, and vice versa, but probably more her strengthening me. And so that's where I can have that calmness and that stillness, and obviously my faith. Like, I know, like, God, my wife, her biggest statement, she tells us, "I'm sure it'll be fine." Like, when it's something I kind of am stressing about, she always says, "I'm sure it'll be fine." And you know what? 99.999% times it is.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And that's what you do.
And-
I'm
and-
telling you, that's what you do.
And it's because of her. Like, she built me up into just kind of trusting that, just in life in general, but also it's her faith that, like, overpowers my weaknesses, and it causes me to realize, okay, I need to calm down.
Yeah.
It's gonna work out. Look how many times it worked out in the past.
You rub off on him.
Yeah,
So
she does.
you're good. You're doing a good job.
Yeah.
She got him to church. He got saved as a result of her. She's rubbing off on him on this way he calms down.
Yeah.
Well, and also
Dang.
for me, just so I'm throw it out there, Jana is also that for me.
Well, yeah.
Big time.
We're a hot mess without our wives, is
Dude,
the reality.
for sure.
It's a fact.
For sure.
Yeah,
It's a fact.
so we all agree.
Yeah.
She agrees too.
She does.
So
She's like, I trained him well. No.
let me talk a little bit about like what you guys do for a living, because it's always interesting for people, because it's also a connect point, because they're like, I didn't know that about you. So Denise, you work in social services,
Right.
so, and you also do real estate on the side.
Yes.
So you, right at this point in time in real estate, you're doing referral work, but social services. Can you tell us about that?
So I've worked in social services for a lot of years, and maybe like the last 10 years or so, I've been a case manager. I've worked with like homeless, permanent supportive housing. Right now I'm a director at a senior center. I was given the opportunity to create a program, and it's a 60-year-old plus program for the Coachella Valley. So basically we provide free services to them, connect them to social services, caregivers, resources, just, housing, just so many different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is such a critically important part of a community, the resources, especially at, later stages of life.
Yeah.
Just trying to navigate that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. It's pretty unbelievable, actually, what a lot of people live on, when they're 60 or older. And so, when I kind of realized that really put a fire under me with FPU also, because I've been working for nonprofits for most of my career, and it doesn't really come with a pension, so that really opened my eyes and said, okay, I really need to get my finances in order.
It's a wake-up call when you realize people who don't put these things in action financially in their own homes, this is the end result.
Yeah.
They are barely making it, if that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I've just, I have a heart for, serving people, and just helping them with the resources that I've come across for many, many years, and helping them to get connected to that.
That's great. And then Nick, you work at what school district?
I work for Colton Joint Unified School District.
And you've been there for how many years?
Gonna be about 9 years this summer. Yeah.
Wow. That's a long time. And what do you do for them?
I started off in the grounds department, just going around maintaining the grounds. I used to have my own landscape company,
Wow.
so it was like a perfect fit.
And that's a big district, so there's a lot of stuff that needs to be.
Yeah, so I started in there and just slowly worked my way up and got into the maintenance department, and now I'm a maintenance lead just within the last year and a half, 2 years. So yeah, we fix the things that break on their own, and then we fix the things that people choose to break.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's never a dull moment at my job.
I bet. Yeah. Just never ending changes, never ending things to be replaced, fixed, upgraded, updated, kids busting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely TikTok is my number one enemy.
Yeah.
All the TikTok challenges. The kids
Oh,
destroy
yeah.
things intentionally because they saw it on TikTok. And
They
so
were
then
doing like the bathroom stuff,
bathrooms,
right?
yes.
For a while.
Stuff, yeah.
Yes.
Oh man,
Blowing up toilets and
So messed
a
up.
lot of fun things. So yeah, we have
Still
all that
happening
fun
a
things.
lot right now.
We not so much right now. It was when they first started coming back to school
Yeah.
after COVID.
Okay.
We deal with a lot of people coming from off campus during the evening, nighttime, and they still wire out of our lights. The stadium lighting, they still wire out of the parking lot lights and just
all
cut
the
through the
copper
fence.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so probably I would say at least 30% of my day, or even just over the last 2 years, has been just repairing those types of damages.
It's just sad. I mean, you think about how the loss, it's unnecessary, but the loss that happens, that a portion of the budget of a school district has to be allocated to just replacement of stuff that got ripped off overnight.
Yeah.
It's just,
And it's copper. You can make quite a bit of money if you recycle copper, but not compared to what it costs to install it. I mean, you're talking. We have 3-4 guys installing for 2 days, and it's thousands of dollars just in material to repair it. And then these guys might get a couple $100.
Yeah.
it's sad.
We used to have these guys like back when I was doing construction on the job site. We would try and hide the copper pretty well in trailers, like heavy duty trailers. Put our equipment up next to it. These guys would do everything they could to get these spools of copper, and it's so much work. You have to literally like cut the sleeves off of them, and they're thick to get this copper. It was always an issue.
It's like the catalytic converters,
Yeah.
Yes.
just that, what a waste. You know how much work and time, energy, and expense it takes to, like, I got to get my car towed down to the, repair shop to have a catalytic converter welded on. And now I'm out of car it's just,
It's messed up.
Yeah, it is messed up.
Yeah.
Nick, you're involved in youth ministry and have for quite some time. You're involved with Sandals Church Banning's youth ministry, but you have a history of being involved in youth ministries. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So years ago, like it's been, I don't know how many years. I'm not good with time. Denise is my timetable, and my daughter Jaden. Like they can tell me a day and a month sometimes of certain things. I'm like,
I can't do that anymore.
it all blends into me. I'm just like, I know what happened in my lifetime. But years ago, that's what we use. We used to volunteer in children's ministry at a local church. And then there was an opportunity for us to lead it. And so we led it and ran the whole program, got the volunteers involved. Like every week we were doing this. And we did that for like 6 years, I think. And then for whatever reason, I just believe God was calling us to something different. We stepped down from that for a brief period and transferred to a different church. And I got involved in the junior high, which was during the week. We did junior high ministry. So I would teach in there, volunteer in there. And then we would have a Wednesday night program, and I would help teach in that and lead and just be a volunteer. So I've been doing kids ministry and youth ministry for at least 10 plus years now.
That's awesome.
And then I mean, we had been attending here for a while, and we never had the opportunity really to talk with John. Like one day we just like connected in the parking lot, and we just started talking, and we shared like, hey, I do youth and this and that. And he's like, I'm the youth lead, and he's like, why don't you come and check it out? He's like, just come check it out.
That was
like,
he was setting the hook.
No strings attached. And over the last year and a half that I've known John, when he says no strings attached, like just check it. He's legit. He's not one of those typical, like, if you don't do it, he's gonna be mad. Like, it's not his personality, which is a rarity when it comes to ministry. Like, hey, come work, and then you don't do it, I'm mad. But so that was like a year and a half ago. I'm still checking it out. That's where I'm at.
That's awesome.
I love doing the youth. I love our team. I love our leaders. The kids are amazing. Sandals has got the program down pretty well as far as just the teaching. We do live messages once a month, fun games, food. yeah,
That's awesome.
It's a blast for us leaders. So I know the kids are having a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're going to wrap things up. We don't want to take too much of you guys' time. We're so grateful for both of you and your family being a part of Santos Church Banning. You're such a huge asset to this campus and a blessing to us personally to know you. And it's been fun having you guys here, just hearing a little bit more about your story. And I know that'll be a blessing for people who get a chance to listen to it. So how we usually end is I usually pray for the couples or individuals. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now.
Alrighty.
Lord, I just thank you so much for Nick and Denise. And I just thank you for Darian and Jaden and just their family. I thank you that they're a significant part of what happens here, Lord, with Financial Peace University and then also serving in youth. And just, Lord, I just thank you for the gifts and talents that they bring and just freely offer to you, the things that they've learned over the 21 plus years of marriage and raising 2 kids and processing through, Lord, their own histories, Lord, their own family of origins, the own brokenness that they have seen and witnessed, but are committed to just raising a family in the ways of the Lord and committing to faithfulness in their marriage. And I just thank you for the blessing of that, the blessing of the testimony and witness that is to those that come in contact with them, the testimony and witness that is to those in the campus of Santos Church Banning. And so continue to bless them, anoint their marriage, prosper them, establish the work of their hands, Lord, in the work that they do, and also in the ministries that they serve in. And so we lay that before you. We rejoice in advance of the work you're going to do. And we pray these things in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
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 Thank you for coming in.
You guys did good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for
Fun.
having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a blessing.
Love you guys.
did
Appreciate
great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.